Hello guys, it's Andy, the Angry White Lawyer here again. Can reform beat Plaid in Wales? Now we know that the recent polling has shown Plaid with a handy lead, but things might not be as cut and dried as you think in Wales just yet, because there was a result within the last few days where in Anglesey, in Ynys Môn for all you Welsh speakers, in Rhynap Iorwerth's backyard, he is the leader of Plaid Cymru, where Welsh is more or less the first language. It's widely spoken. That's an understatement. The Reform candidate won. And not just won, he won with almost 44% of the vote. Now that's extraordinary. And no doubt Reform are going to be crowing about this, and I understand why. My take is that, yes, it gives some hope to Reform if they can do well in an area like that. However, I'm not one of these content creators that, like others, that make a big play on local election results. It can give a bit of a snapshot, but when you take one isolated one like this, you can't really get a lot from it, guys, because there are other factors at play. Is the candidate well known in the locality? Does he have strong roots there? Was it more of a case of voting for the candidate rather than the party? What sort of track record did he have? You know, all those things come into play. So yes, it's hopeful for Reform, but I wouldn't read too much into it. We saw this in Caerphilly, didn't we? Where a candidate who'd been trying to get into office for 50 years finally did it for Plaid Cymru. Because he was well known in the community, he had a track record, and Plaid have had a base there for donkey's years. They've come second in Caerphilly since forever. So it was always likely that that was going to happen, and it was an uphill task for Reform. So what's the situation now? Well, recent polling has shown that Plaid have a handy lead, something like 14 points, which is something of a surge, because up until relatively recently, and certainly up until the Caerphilly by-election, Reform were just about ahead. And I saw that Nigel Farage referred to a poll that he saw where Reform were slightly in the lead. And he's sort of correct about that, but not entirely. Because the poll that he's referring to, I believe, and I might be wrong, is the More in Common poll, which was published, last month, which shows that in a data spread between sort of last year to early January, Reform were indeed pipping Plaid Cymru, but only just by about 4%. So it was a wide range of dates and a number of various polls that were taken together. Since then, we know that Plaid have surged. So, Farage was correct when he said what he said about the polls, but no, I don't think I would read too much into that one. The electoral map, if that poll is the More in Common poll is correct, would look something like this, and I'll put it up now, which is more or less the way I thought the elections would go. Plaid in the Welsh-speaking areas, whereas Reform would do brilliantly in the more English-speaking areas. So who knows? Let's see the way that it goes. However, my feeling at the moment, being a Welsh person and living here, is that looking at the polls, I think Reform are seen by many as an English party, which of course is untrue. They are seen as outsiders. They are of the far right because of the way that the media has portrayed them in Wales. If you thought the national media was anti-Reform, you should see what it's like in Wales. It's even worse. And I think the electorate want to punish Labour for mishandling Wales for the last 30 years, as they want to punish the Westminster government for what they've done in the last couple of years. And sadly, the mentality is still the same. Let's punish A by voting for B. And we tried that with Labour in 2024, and where has it got us? The Americans tried it with Biden in 2020. Look what happened in America between 2020 and the subsequent election of Trump Part 2. They ended up with a dead duck of a president. So I hate the idea of not voting for something positive. It's great to say, look, the other lot are terrible, but this is why you should vote for me. We can do this. But it seems to me that Labour and Plaid are both saying, oh, look, vote for us because we'll stop reform. And Plaid are rather disingenuous, aren't they? Because they are saying, oh, well, if you want change, vote for us. Sorry, guys, you have propped up the Welsh Government in voting on bills and so on legislation, for the past 30 years. During the Drakeford administration, for instance, you had a guy right at the very top of government, really, didn't you? You are part of the problem in Wales. You are the reason why Labour managed to break Wales. So you were just enablers, weren't you? So if people are thinking they are voting for change when they vote for Plaid, they are sadly mistaken. However, I do think, sadly, that unless something changes, Plaid may well win in May. It'll still be a massive achievement for reform because they'll be the main opposition party. Labour and the Tories will be nowhere. But God help us, because if you thought that the Labour administration in Cardiff Bay was bad and that socialism hasn't worked for Wales, you just wait when Plaid get in. Think steroids. Yeah, it's going to be worse. But Wales as a whole will vote for reform in a general election. There is no doubt about that. The English-speaking areas in particular of Wales, the west, the east, and the big population centres in Swansea and Cardiff, they will almost certainly vote for reform in a general election. So we could end up with a reform government in Westminster and a real far-left nutjob administration in Wales, which doesn't bode well for this country, I'm afraid. But we'll see how it turns out. Am I right? Am I wrong? Tell me. The jury's out. Oh, and by the way, if you like the video, then like and subscribe. That's great. Hope you do. If you don't, then give me a thumbs down and tell me why. Speak soon.